Hello guys, welcome to United's Glory. In this video we're going to talk about whether or not Manchester United are back on track, moving in the right direction, or whether this is simply another false dawn. Since Sir Alex Ferguson's departure after our last title winning season in 2013, of course Manchester United just haven't been the same. We've not been at the level. The bar has continued to drop season after season, but there have been glimmers of hope in them 7 years. We literally got no glimmer of hope from David Moyes, but with Van Gaal, there was a season where we were playing the 4-3-3 with Herrera in the midfield, and we were looking good. We had 3 months of really good football, and it looked like Van Gaal was going somewhere. Of course, that tailed off in the second season under Van Gaal, where he basically just stopped deploying this 4-3-3. Of course, Van Gaal's second season didn't quite fall to the lows of David Moyes' first season, but ultimately the football was not the most inspiring football to watch, and with Van Gaal's stubbornness, it was hard to see him improving on what he'd already put in place. A team of players that Van Gaal let go, you often felt could potentially have beaten the team he was putting out on the field at that time, letting go of the likes of Nani, Raphael, Van Persie, and you just felt that Van Gaal's philosophy was behind a more updated and evolved philosophy that you could argue came from the same branch of philosophies, the likes of Pep Guardiola's football, and Van Gaal just seemed outdated, especially to me. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, in comes Jose Mourinho, a completely different philosophy. Once again, the first season was full of promise, not a great Premier League run, but ultimately we ended up with the League Cup and the Europa League. I nearly called it the UEFA Cup there. We ended up with a cup double, a Mickey Mouse double, sure, but at the same time, it was progress. And the winning mentality seems to be brought back. We expected Mourinho to kick on in their second season and start that title-challenging run and basically do what Mourinho does, win titles. And a lot of us were happy to forsake entertaining football in order to win that title, in order to not go 30 years without a title. We wanted to stop that rot from potentially happening. But ultimately, despite the fact we came second in Mourinho's second season, we were not the second best team in the league. The league table, the points tally, did actually lie that season. And then another spark of hope came when OLE came in for the first time and obviously went on that run last season, even knocking PSG out of the Champions League with an injury-ridden team at the Parc des Princes. Of course, that all seemed to be falling apart at the beginning of this season, but ultimately he's managed to pull his way back in, and it appears that OLE's back at the wheel. 15 games unbeaten is even better than what we achieved last year. I think it was 11 or 12 games unbeaten. There's been no major PSG win, but we have beaten Man City. And of course, the major catalyst for all this has been the signing of Bruno Fernandes in the January transfer market, coupled with the pandemic break and the return of Paul Pogba and even Marcus Rashford to some extent, who was our top goal scorer before he got injured. There's a lot of optimism around Old Trafford and the Manchester United fan base. It appears Ollie's back at the wheel. You're looking at our fixture list. It doesn't appear we are going to drop many points. Our toughest team is Leicester on the last game of the season, and given that we could potentially be catching Leicester within the next few games in the Premier League, then that will be squeaky bum time for Leicester if Leicester are still above us in that last game by a few points. And I expect us in a one-off match to beat Leicester City. Of course, there's the FA Cup and the Europa League that we're still in. The Europa League, we have a great chance. I can't see any teams in there that we cannot beat. In the FA Cup, of course, there's Man City. If Man City are at their best, they'll be extremely difficult to beat, and we're not at their level yet. Maybe another couple of signings, and sure, we could be there. And we can beat them. That's the thing. We can beat Manchester City. We've proven that this season. So if we turn up, the FA Cup's there to be won. And you have to say, if Ole is able to pull off a top 4 finish, or even a 5th place finish, and wins the Europa League and the FA Cup, that's been our best season post Sir Alex Ferguson. It's better than the coming second season because you get nothing for coming second except a Champions League spot, which you can get by coming 4th. The Europa League and FA Cup marginally outweighs winning the Europa League and the League Cup, but also we're playing some good football. We're looking good. We're looking like a good possession team now, which is something you've not been able to say about Manchester United. We kept possession well under Van Gaal, but it wasn't good possession. Now, in terms of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there's still a big question mark over him in terms of his coaching. Now, he is the manager. He doesn't necessarily need to be a top-notch coach if he's good at everything else, providing he has the staff underneath him that are good at coaching. McKenna's supposed to be a good coach. Carrick could potentially be a good coach. We need to see it in action yet to really make a full judgment. But the fact is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got Manchester United going in the right direction. I've not always been so sure on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, to be brutally honest. But if I go back to David Moyes, it was obvious at Christmas this man was just not cutting it. Van Gaal, when he stopped deploying what was successful and the stubbornness appeared and the football was literally sending him to sleep, I was like, this man is not the man for Manchester United. I'm sure Van Gaal could be a good coach somewhere else, but he just doesn't cut it in the Premier League. Mourinho, it's the Sevilla match in the Champions League where I was like, this man is not going to evolve, he's not going to change, and quite frankly, his football is looking a little outdated in this decade. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quite hasn't dipped that far below the line for me in terms of wanting him out. He has hovered around that line though, I must admit, and I've not been 100% sure about him. But right now, I'm backing Ole. I think Ole could be the man, providing he continues doing the right things. Our squad is starting to look quite strong now. Now, I've done a squad on your screen right now that's got some hypothetical signings in. Signings that look likely, I'm not saying they'll definitely happen, but hopefully Ed Woodward will pull them off. It's only 2 signings, and even with only 2 signings, we look a very good proposition for next season. 2 signings, I believe, can make us compete for the title. If we get a third and a fourth in, I believe there's no reason we shouldn't be really pushing that title down to the wire. Our defence is strong. Wan-Bissaka has been brilliant. I'm really a big fan of Wan-Bissaka. Dalot provides good backup. Lindelof is a steady defender, not a special defender, but he's good on the ball, he's comfortable. Eric Bailly has potential to be a special defender. It's whether he can keep fit and consistent. Maguire is a good defender, lacks a little bit of pace, but makes up for it in other areas. Now, I've got Chris Smalling on there. I think Chris Smalling is also a good defender and would even complement Harry Maguire at the centre of defence. He stays largely injury-free, and I think with those 4 as our centre-backs, we don't need a centre-back desperately, because I think that's good enough, especially if we start to keep possession like we have been in recent matches. They'll be under a lot less pressure and under a lot less attack, and will therefore make a lot less errors. Left back, Luke Shaw, with Brandon Williams backing him up. Luke Shaw does need to improve for me. I'm holding him to the level or the bar of Wan-Bissaka, and he isn't quite reaching it. If you want to be a Manchester United player, you need to reach the bar of at least Wan-Bissaka, or at least show that you're improving. He's not somebody who needs to be replaced immediately, and maybe Brandon Williams can keep developing and take that position anyway. And of course, back to Chris Smalling, it all depends on whether he wants to stay at Manchester United. And then you can also think that we have Tuanzebe as an up-and-coming prospect in the centre of defence. In midfield, Matic, resurgent, looks brilliant at the minute. Maybe somebody who you want to look after like we used to look after Carrick and Scholes and Giggs later in their careers. Play them here and there where they're going to be most effective. Fred, a nuisance in midfield, really impressed. I think he's been brilliant this season, potentially one of our players of the year. Unlucky to have been dropped, but you can't argue with how Matic is playing at the moment. But Fred is great in that position, and Fred offers something different from what Matic offers. He's better at pressing, and he plays at a higher tempo than Matic. 2 good alternatives really for that position. Pogba, what more can you say? He's world class. I don't need to say too much on Paul Pogba. McTominay is really coming on. He's really developing. He's a presence in that midfield. He's got captain-like abilities, I must say. He doesn't shy away. He doesn't quite have the creative capabilities of a Pogba or a Bruno, but he isn't afraid to take a shot if he needs to do so. In attacking midfield, Bruno Fernandes, sensational, completely infectious on this Manchester United squad, makes things happen. Don't need to say too much on him. His performances are speaking for themselves. I've got Grealish there, of course. Depending on how much Grealish costs, I'd probably go for Van der Beek if it's not Grealish. I'd like them both, to be honest, as I've said in a different video, if we really want to impress ourselves on the Premier League and Champions League. But Grealish would be enough. He's got captain-like abilities, give us leadership abilities at the front. In the offensive areas, he's quick at carrying the ball, got a great change of pace, great delivery, and is not afraid to take a shot and score some goals. And personally, if Rashford's not fit, I will be playing him on the left wing to give him them extra games. And considering he'd be coming from Aston Villa or potentially going to get relegated, he probably can't expect to be walking straight into the Manchester United team anyway. On the left, Marcus Rashford, great season. Bit slow on the comeback after the coronavirus break, but that may just be down to match sharpness and rhythm. But I expect him to pick up after a few more games. On the right, can we sign Jadon Sancho? If they're really going to go for 50 million, I suspect not. But that's the player we need. This is the problem position for us. Greenwood had a great game the other night, but you can't expect him to be consistent at the age he's at. He's a raw prospect, and you'd like to see Greenwood starting to challenge Martial for that forward position as well eventually. Anthony Martial, once again, really come on this season. He is a class player. His A game is world class. Needs to add a few more dimensions to his game when things aren't going well for me. But I have no complaints about Martial. I think he's easily capable of being one of the best strikers in the Premier League, if not Europe. Ighalo, of course, is simply just a backup option, and he has a presence up front, and he can hold the ball up well, and he's even got a goal in him. So I have no problem with that. We can always deploy Sancho or Rashford up top if Martial and Ighalo get injured. Let me know what you guys think on this potential squad. There are a few variables, of course, but this is a strong squad, and if Ole's coaching continues to develop, continues to evolve, and the squad get more confident, I see no reason why we can't be challenging for the league even with 2 signings. Of course, we have other players beyond this initial 22, and some of them could provide backup. But I think it's time to let the deadwood go, get rid of Rojo, especially Phil Jones, Alexis Sanchez, Pereira. Pereira might be an okay backup choice beyond that initial 6 in midfield, but I think he's had enough chances. Jesse Lingard, I think it's time to move him on. And I think Juan Mata's past his best, and I think it's time to let him move on as well. But I'm confident. I think Ole is back at the wheel, and he must be commended for that. Whether you can say he's got good players at disposal is irrelevant. At the end of the day, he has to use them, he has to use them right, and we're looking good at the moment. The wheels on the bus are still going round and round for Ole, but ultimately it's a bus that needs continual work, continual development. It needs to keep evolving as a bus or a coach, and I think we can get there within a season or 2. An extra 3rd or 4th player, and I can see no reason why we won't be only be challenging for Premier League titles, but potentially Champions Leagues as well, which is exactly where Manchester United should be. That's where the bar should be, guys. That's why I've called this channel United's Glory. It's all about getting Manchester United back to those glory days. Anyway, guys, that's all for this video. If you enjoy my content, please do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're already subscribed, please do share a link to these videos with any other Manchester United fans you know. The support is truly appreciated. Please smash the like button if you think Ole's at the wheel. See you soon, guys.